How's it going? Normal Lloyd Kinsey III here at Support RE. For all of you that went to CCIRM and gave me your business cards or are watching this video afterwards, this video contributes to Carol Rodoni. Carol Rodoni came in on 1/30/2018 on the tour sheet here. I recorded her whole presentation on financial topics, on real estate topics, on Bitcoin topics, on the government. Highly recommend that you watch the whole video throughout. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching this video, and a little quick tip. Support RE is in competition with Zillow, and I thought this was a perfect video to put out there because we put the agents at the forefront.
I want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. I want to talk about these tax cuts, and then I want to talk about basically what's going to happen with the real estate market and what I think is going to happen as a result of these tax cuts. So, I go back and I say, over the last 9 years, we really had an economy that just was not moving, on a national level. The most we could reach was really 1.9% GDP, and we're a country that's too large to be at that kind of movement. And so the mandate came down that they definitely wanted us to move to 3%, and obviously a new administration came in. And did we reach 3%? Well, we did reach 3% last year. The first quarter was 2.6, the second quarter was 3, the third quarter was 3.4, and the fourth quarter came in at about 2.7. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we reached 3%. The first was the Federal Reserve was very mild, if you remember. They only kept interest rates up twice, and that basically was 0.25%. And you had that 10-year down as low as 1.8. It stayed about 2.4, 2.5 for most of the year. We'll talk about what happened to it this morning because it went all the way up to 2.7, but we'll talk about why that's happening. The second thing is look at employment. We employed about a million people last year. That got us down to 4%, so we were almost at full employment. We've already employed 1.8 million people this year, and we're on scale to do about 2.5 million more new jobs this year, so that helps the economy also. The third thing was basically, if you look at the dollar was very, very, very valuable at the beginning of the year, went down about 10% towards the end of the year. I know we like a very valuable dollar, but basically companies that do business internationally don't like a dollar that's too highly valued because it makes them less competitive when they go out and compete against the world. I guess the fourth thing that happened was basically when you look at basically China and you look at Japan and you look at basically Russia and you look at all the European countries, they were actually in a recession basically for the last couple of years. They came in later than we did. They actually had notes that had negative interest rates, if you remember, and they finally hit 0 interest rates, which means hooray, hooray for them because they're finally coming out of this recession, and that's a good thing. I guess the best thing that everybody talks about and basically talks about is the stock market. The stock market was at 18,000. We ended the year at 25,000. So if you have a 401k or a pension plan, no matter who you are, you're 25% richer than you were basically at the beginning of basically 2017. And if you add in what's happened this year, you're up about 31%. And it's been everything. It's been value, it's been growth, it's been really across the board. So I can tell you that basically Boeing was the best stock on the New York Stock Exchange last year. It was up 363%. The worst stock was General Electric, which is down to about $15 a share, in trouble with the SEC over their insurance company, and basically say they might have to break up the company. But what were some of the winners and what should you be looking at? Okay, let's talk first about what's going to happen. The President's going to speak tonight. It's going to be his State of the Union message. And so therefore he's going to talk about defense. That's a biggie. And that we're going to do a 10-year program. We've got to juice up. We have 1,000 pilots short. We have 50% of our planes that can't fly. We used to have 500 basically warships. We're down to 280. So that the mandate is out that we've got to juice up. Strong defense, you don't go to war. So at the end of the day, I would say you should look at Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and obviously you should look at Boeing. Those are all great stocks. I think the next thing is there's going to be a huge infrastructure bill over 10 years. He's going to ask for $1.7 trillion, and basically that's for roads and bridges and to fix all these things that we have that are crumbling. So I think that you should look at anything like Caterpillar, Deere, any of the home builders, any of the great big builders that do big construction projects, because those will all be good. Obviously, when you look at consumer services, what do I like? I like Walmart. I basically love McDonald's. They came out today, had record earnings. I like Costco. I like Target. All of those I think the consumer loves. They like those. Those are the ones. And of course, Amazon.com is the big mama and papa. I think when you're looking at basically airlines, I like Alaska and Southwest because they're not highly unionized. Those are the only two airlines that I really like. I think when you look at car companies, I know everybody's in love with Tesla because it's fancy and it's basically exciting. And I have 3 people in my building that have Teslas, and they zoom the motors whenever you see them so that you know they're driving a Tesla. At the end of the day, it's just a car. What the hell do I know? I don't know the difference. Anyway, Ford Motor Company's down to $12 a share, and they sold 8 million cars last year. Think of all the cars that were destroyed in these hurricanes and all these fires that we had. Car companies are probably going to be doing pretty good, basically, this year. I think when you look at basically things like technology, look guys, the FANGs plus Amazon own the world. So you've got Facebook, you've got Apple, you've got Alphabet, you've got Netflix, you've got Google and Amazon. And they own 90% of the world. You should not be afraid to buy them on the dips. Buy them, buy them, buy them. You know, I have come here and talked to you repeatedly about a company called Alibaba. Now, Alibaba was down as low as $90 a share. Do you know what it is today? It's over $200 a share. So if some of you listened, you're very happy with me. If you didn't, what can I say? I think that's going to be a $300 stock in the next couple of years. There's another stock called Baidu out of China, B-A-I-D-U, that I love. I just this morning bought a stock called Tencent out of China, and I bought another company in China called 56.com. If you like video games, there's a company called Take-Two, which I think is very good. If you like the computer components, there's a company called NVIDIA, which is down in Palo Alto, absolutely stunning. There's a company called Palo Alto Networks. I love Intel. I like the Intel. I also like basically, if you're going to look at basically some other things, I did not love Berkshire Hathaway, but it's very expensive if you're going to buy it. And let me tell you what was announced today. This is amazing what's basically happening, because we're going to end up with probably 20 companies that run the world. You do know that because of the internet. This morning it was announced that Berkshire Hathaway, Amazon, and JP Morgan are going to set up a non-profit company that's going to deal in healthcare for their employees. Now, I thought about that, right? Because if I was running around my house at 4 o'clock this morning, it was driving me crazy. Because these 3 companies are not non-profit, and you know that. They are all for profit. So what the hell are they doing in non-profit? And I think I figured it out. But if I'm right, I'm a genius. If I'm wrong, hell, it was just one of my crazy ideas, right? At the end of the day, I said to myself, they employ probably over 1 million people combined, right? So they're going to go to the drug companies, and they're going to go to the healthcare providers, and they're going to beat them up big time. They're going to get the costs down, which is what all businesses want to do, because after wages, their biggest cost is healthcare. It keeps going up 4 or 5% a year. It's out of the question, and everybody complains about it. So then what I think they're going to do is say to their employees, you know what? Instead of going through an insurance company, you're going to come to us. We're going to give you your drugs at cost or a little bit above cost. And you know what we're going to do? What is Amazon all about? Amazon's all about getting it cheap, getting it fast, and charging you for Prime. So I think what they're going to do is say to every employee, how about $100 a year? Then that gets you into the system. Now you can buy all your drugs. Amazon will deliver them to you same day, and you can have them at cost. Do you realize what $100 times 1.5 million people is? That's what I think they're going to do. That's going to set the model for the way healthcare should work, and they're going to take Obamacare and throw it out the window. They have to get the cost down. So that's something that just came out today, okay? Yesterday, they told us that basically Dell was going to be brought out by Beware, which means that it'll be the largest technology buyout that we've ever had. Every day you go on and you hear a company getting bought out, a company merging. All the bigs are just getting bigger, and that's exactly what's happening down there. So I look at the stock market and I say, where is it going to be? Well, this morning it was at 26,400 on the Dow, about 7,400 on NASDAQ, and about 2,800 on the S&P. Now it's gone down for the last 2 days, and it was down about 100 points, 200 points when I left this morning. Don't let that bother you, because basically I love this. I'm in the car yesterday, and the woman said the stock market is down sharply yesterday. Sharply was 1/2 of 1%, because it's based against 26,000, you stupid person. I mean, if it was based against 200, it would be down sharply, but it's based against 26,000. So at the end of the day, why? Because they think there's inflation coming. And because inflation is coming, that 10-year is going up. And so this morning it was at 2.7, and it was up at 2.6 yesterday, and it keeps going up slightly, and they'd like to see it stabilize and stay at a certain pace. So let me tell you now what I think is going to happen this year. I think the stock market's going to be at 28, 29,000, probably no problem. I think it's going to go up the first quarter, take a dip a little bit. We're almost there, Martin. It'll go back in the summer, and then it'll go up basically towards the end of the year. Because all of these companies, because of the tax cuts, are living fat and happy, and most of them are going to do extremely well this year. I think that 10-year probably is going to be at 3% or even a little bit above. But here's what they've done to mortgage rates, and here's what they've done. The banks are very smart. The banks which have done very well, so if you like Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, buy them, they're going to be here and they're strong. What they've done is they said, you know, we have these millennials out there who all they've ever known is 3 to 4.5% interest rates. If it went to 5 and 6%, it would basically bring the market down, and they would go into, you know, cardiac arrest, and we'd have to bring in the dogs and the coloring books and the psychiatrists. But at the end of the day, the bank said, let's not do that. What we're going to do is we're going to keep interest rates low. So you're going to go out there and they're going to quote you 3, 4.5%, but I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to start to charge you 1 point. That's what they're doing now. So where it was no points, no fees, you're going to see 1 point, and then you're going to see no fees, and then you're going to see the interest rate stay the same. They will buy that because you know what they're about. They can't stand anything that goes long term. Everything has to be for the minute, just get me in. So that's what the banks are doing, and that will keep our market strong, I think. So I think that we're going to be at 4%. I think Mr. Powell, who's going to have his first meeting in March, may raise interest rates. I think now that the 10-year is going up, he may hesitate a bit, but I think he's going to do it at least 2 times. I know there's people that say he's going to do it 4 times. He's an idiot if he does it 4 times because he's going to take this economy, which is running on all cylinders now, and basically muck it. This is not what he wants to do. I understand he wants to get in front of inflation, but we don't even have 2% inflation yet, so why don't we wait till you get there before you screw up the place, okay? Because the Fed is always behind the curve or too far in front of the curve. They're never at the right place at the right time. Okay, so now you know Mr. Trump is going to talk tomorrow night in the State of the Union. He's going to give a lovely address because they always do, you know that. They will hate him on the other side. Everybody will not like it. When it's over, they'll tell us the world is coming down. We're never going to have anything. Everything's going to go. We're in big trouble. Oh my God. Don't believe any of it. The economy is very strong in the United States of America, and we are doing absolutely the best. Okay. So now let me go down and let's talk a little bit about what I think could happen on the national plane that might disrupt that. I guess I would say it would be the little chubby guy from North Korea, right? The little basically Napoleon that we have there. Now here's what's different that should put you at peace a little bit. If you remember, we belong to something called the United Nations, which we basically support about 80%. And at the end of the day, there's something called the Executive Council, of which we are a member, France, Germany. Basically, you have Russia, and you have China, and you have Japan. Now, when you vote for something at the executive session, you have to have complete 100%, everybody in complete agreement, or it can't go through. So for years, we have been asking for sanctions against basically North Korea, and always China and Russia have basically said no, and we've never been able to do it. Here's the difference. China, about 3 years ago, got to join the World Trade Agreement, if you remember, and they joined the World Trade. And you know, they want to be a world power, but they want to be a respected world power. And the whole world has basically said to them, you're the people that are keeping this guy in North Korea alive. You supply him with all his electricity, all his food, and you supply him with all his money. So guess what? You're the problem, not the rest of the world. He's the problem, but you're encouraging him. So you need to sit down, tell him to shut up, and you need to basically curtail him. So the last 2 times they've met at the executive session, they've agreed, both China and Russia, to put sanctions on him. So he's now hurting. He's not getting as much electricity or food, which is sad for his people. No more banks. They're not giving him any more money. And even China, which used to take his coal, isn't even taking his coal. So you notice he's been quiet a little bit lately. That doesn't mean he won't faithfully take another missile and basically throw it up in the air so he can clap. But at the end of the day, it's China that has to control him. We cannot control him because we can. We have the power to blow him up. We could blow up North Korea in the next 33 minutes, but here's what's going to happen. It takes time to get a missile from here all the way over there. In the time it takes, they will know it's coming. He has 50,000 missiles headed at South Korea, which means he will blow up and devastate an ally of ours called South Korea. So we can't blow him up. We could not go in there and send 1 million men to basically invade it, because he has a 1 million man army over there just waiting. So at the end of the day, China needs to contain him. I think we're okay for the moment. Now let's talk about Silicon Valley, because there it's magical. Their GDP last year was 8.6%. We're on the basically scale to be 9% this year, which means it will be the fastest growing economy in the world. And I just told you, all the banks are doing everything. They just announced, and now I want to get into the tax cuts and tell you what they're all doing because of it. All right, the tax cuts. First of all, it's $1.7 trillion that they've given to us. 60% went to corporations and 40% went to the consumer. They love what went to the basically corporate, so let's talk about that. They took the 35% tax rate and brought it down to 21%. But see, that doesn't help big corporations because they never paid 35 anyway, so they're happy, they don't care. It's small businesses, it's people that own restaurants and barber shops and bakeries. They were getting hit with that, so for them, this is a wonderful thing. They took capital expenditures. So you go into a store and you have to put in the walls and you have to buy painting and you have to buy equipment and appliances and whatever, desks and computers, etc. Those are all capital expenditures. Under the old rule, you paid for them, but you couldn't write them off in the year you paid for them. You had to write them off slowly every single year over a period of time. Now they can buy them, expend them, and they can write them off. The third thing that they did, and this is the best for big companies, well, you know we have that $3 trillion sitting abroad because we're a double taxation nation. So if you were Apple and you made money in India and you made money in basically Italy, they would leave it there because they got taxed there. But if they brought it home, it was another 35%. So they now have said to corporations over the next 6 to 10 years, you can bring your money back and we'll only charge you one time 10%. So businesses like that. Now what does that mean? Well, just listen to this. Apple announced this week that they are going to bring back $360 million, pay this $36 million in tax. They will keep it in this valley, and over 5 years, they will hire another 20,000 people, and they will build another, basically, Apple community. We know that basically AT&T gave each one of their 100,000 employees a bonus in their January checks of $1,000. We know that Walmart raised their minimum wage from $10 to $11 and gave each one of their 1.5 million workers in the United States of America bonuses from $2,000 all the way down to $250. We know that 45 companies have given bonuses and another 80 companies have raised minimum wages at least $1 or $2 for each one of their employees. So what are they doing? Well, the mandate came down. You can't just do it to raise dividends and do that. So it's for wages, it's to hire new people, it is for mergers and acquisitions, it is to buy back stocks, which helps all of you. It's not for the rich. We have more money in 401ks than we have rich people. If you're in a 401k and you own a stock and they buy back shares, that increases the value of your stock because it decreases the number of shares that are out there. It also is for dividends. Oh gee, that's for rich people. No, it's not. Most dividends go to retired people who are living on dividends, so hooray for them, and aren't they happy? So everybody is happy with the corporate side. Now let's talk about whether you have clients who are doing business investments. If you have a client that's doing business investments, because of these new tax cuts, you should never allow them to put that title in their own name. Title should be in LLCs, sub-S or C corporations for a couple of reasons. One is a liability issue. If you have something in a business venture and you have it separate in a corporation and you get sued, all they can do is sue you for the asset in the corporation. They can't go after your house and other assets. But here's the other reason why it's important. They've adjusted a new tax rate. So one, you can expense almost everything, and number two, they've taken the tax rate for business ventures, and what they said is it's 21%, plus 3.6% for Medicare, whereas last year was as high as 28%. So that helps people, and that's what you should be doing for business entities. Now let's talk about the consumer, and I got to spend a few minutes on that so that you can understand it, because the media has absolutely terrified everybody. The people that wrote this bill are all idiots, and they don't know how to explain it, because not one has explained it properly. Okay, so let's talk about it. There are 7 tax ranges: 0, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35% is the highest tax rate. Now remember last year, the highest tax rate was 39.6%. So when you look at everybody's income tax rate, whether you're at 15 or 37%, you're probably getting a deduction in your federal income tax rate of between 2 and 5%, depending upon how high your rate is, okay? So that's the first thing. So you're going to have some money over here to work with. The second thing is they doubled the standard deductions. So nobody even begins to get taxed until you reach $13,000 if you're single, or $25,000 if you're married, because the standard deductions are $12,000 if you're single and $24,000 if you're married. So you're not even going to be taxed on that first money. The second thing is, if you have a child living in your house, they doubled the child credit. So it's $2,000 a year now that you will get as a deduction against your federal income tax return with that child. That's why it's 2 to 5%, because you get a little bit on the tax rate, you get a little bit on the standard deduction, and if you have a child, you get a little bit. Now, here's what you need to know. You're not tax people. Don't leave this room and say, Carol Rodoni said give tax advice. Please don't do that. Do not give tax advice. If you're a CPA, you can give tax advice. Here's what's going to happen, however. You need to have a general knowledge of how this works. You need to know how to answer the questions and at least steer people in the right way, because they are going to ask questions. Now, here's what you need to know on the federal side. What is the gross income of your clients? That's the first thing that you need to know. What deductions can they take? That gets them to a net income tax rate. And after that, the federal government takes all of that information and comes up with an average income tax rate. Did you understand what I just said? Gross, deductions, net. The government mixes all those in a bowl and comes up with one number. It's called an average income tax rate. Every one of you should have that, okay, from your accountant. Now, why is that important? Because, wait till we go over to this side. Now, there's one other thing we're going to put on this side. It's called the alternative minimum tax. Now, the alternative minimum tax is a tax that's been in the federal government for the last 10 years. And what it says is, if you reach a certain income tax bracket, you will not be allowed to deduct any state deductions. Did you hear what I just said? If you reach a certain average income tax bracket, or you make a certain gross income, you're not going to be allowed to deduct any state income taxes and state DMV or sales taxes. And that's been in existence for the last 10 years. The amount is $190,000. So if you have a client that's looking for a house and they say, oh my God, I'm going to get hit now with all these state taxes. No, you're not, sir, because you hit the alternative minimum tax and you've never been able to deduct them anyway. Now let's go over here to the other side. And you know you like the standard deduction that they've given you because they doubled it. You like the child credit, they doubled it. Let's talk about mortgage interest. Now in the old world, you could deduct $1.1 million of mortgage interest deduction on a principal residence and vacation home and any interest in a line of equity. That's the old world. Now we move to the new world. Only $750,000, that's the cap. It's only a principal residence, no vacation homes, and you can't deduct any line of equity. Now let's go back. Let's say we have somebody that's making $100,000 a year and they're in the 20% tax bracket, okay? Let's say they come down here and they buy $1 million house, they put $200,000 down, and they're going to carry an $800,000 loan. $750,000 they can deduct. Now they're left with $50,000. But that isn't what they're losing. That's the amount of the loan that's left. Now you have to say to them, what interest are you paying on that loan? Because remember, it was the interest you can deduct, not the loan amount. So let's say they're paying 4%. So 4% on 50,000 is going to be whatever it's going to be, and let's come up with an amount. All right, so we come up with an amount, maybe it's $20,000 a year. It's still not that, because the way the government does it, it's not dollar for dollar. They're going to take that $20,000, go back to your average income tax rate, and say it's 20% of $20,000. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Does everybody get that? The loan isn't the amount you're going to lose the deduction on. Now it's the interest that you're going to pay, and then it's not dollar for dollar, it's against the income tax rate. So now they're out about $4,000 or $5,000, but remember I just told you they gained $4,000 or $5,000, so far they're even, okay? Now we're going to get to the state deductions. All you can deduct now is $10,000 of property taxes, right? Well, they'll be okay, because they have $1 million house, it's going to be about $10,000 or $11,000. But they're going to pay basically state income taxes now, because they are going to have to pay it, because they don't meet the 190 where it's going to hit them. They're going to have to basically hit with the sales taxes and DMV. We pay about 13 to 15% when you add all of that up. So let's say that they're going to pay about $15,000 to $18,000 to the state. But again, it's not dollar for dollar. Again, it's $18,000 against their 20% tax rate, so it's about $6,000. So at the end of the day, this terrible picture, right, that everybody says, oh, I'm moving to Texas, it's going to cost this person at $100,000 about $6,000 or $7,000. Is that a good reason to uproot yourself, go to Texas, move your wife, move your children? Oh, gee, I'll go where I can buy a $600,000 house instead of this $1 million house. Oh, good, why don't you do that? And then here's the deal. You're not going to make the same income, because that's why the house is $600,000, excuse me. The second thing that nobody ever tells you out there is these tax cuts for the consumer are only for 6 years. And you know those idiots in Washington are going to change them all again in 6 years. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be non-applicable. So you're going to uproot your family, go to Texas, it's hot, it's humid, you're going to sell your house to come back, it's going to be worth $600,000. The $1 million house is going to be worth $1.3 million. You can't get your job back. Now you can't come back to California. So why don't you do that? So I think if you sit down, when I tell you, I don't care what these idiots tell you. Oh, this is for the rich. This was not a tax cut for the rich, okay? I will give you myself for an example, and I do not think I am rich. I think today to be rich, you need at least $200 to $400 million, okay? But let's assume that I've worked, I'm 75 years old, I'm still working, I probably have a few bucks, okay? I will tell you exactly what's going to happen to me. Number one is, I have an income that's probably going to put me in the 37% tax bracket, all right? You get there when you make $500,000 or more a year, all right? I have a mortgage on my house, but it's very little, so it's not going to hit me there. I have always hit the alternative minimum tax. Last year, I paid almost $90,000 to the state of California for the privilege of living here. I will pay the same this year, and it doesn't matter, because guess what? I never got the stay-in-debt deductions anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying? So as you go up the scale, it begins to hit you. Now let's talk about the person that makes $500,000 a year, but lives in a $4 million house, and they're going to buy that from you this year. That's going to hurt, because they only can deduct $750,000. But the difference between $1.1 million and $750,000 is only a couple of $100,000. If that stopped you from buying a $4 million house, you shouldn't be living in a $4 million house. You can't afford it, okay? So you begin to understand what I'm saying. This is going to help the middle class. It's going to hurt the top people. Too bad. If you're that rich, either pay the price or shut up. That's it. It's very, very simple. Now, they say the corporate tax is forever, and I would say to you, taxes are forever, but usually they go up, not down. And death, we know, is forever. Okay, those are the only two things I know. So at the end of the day, they totally basically scared you. They've totally misexplained all of this. So you need to sit down with your clients. Gross income, deductions, net income, what is your average income tax rate? Do you qualify for the ATM? When we get to mortgage, it's not the amount of the loan, it's the interest against your average income tax rate. It's what you're going to pay in state income taxes, etc., against your income tax rate. Now let me tell you what the state of California is trying to do. Oh my God, why do we send these people up there? I mean, we assume they have average intelligence, right? They come out, they try to talk to you. What happens when they get up there? This is the new bill they're trying to put out. They want to set up a California charitable trust. And they say if we could pay our state taxes to a charity, then everybody could take their deductions because you can deduct charities. Now I want to ask you a question. A charity is a nonprofit. Now you all give charitable events all year. You know that if you write a check for $100 and you go to a dinner, you have to deduct the price of the dinner from the $100 because now that's not a service to them, that's a service to you. Well, what do you think the state of California does for you? Roads, right? Fire, police, maintenance of bridges, maintenance of the trees and landscaping. They provide all these services. So you're going to send them $100 bucks. They're probably going to ask you for another 100 because you can't deduct anything. So at the end of the day, this is what we call another stupid idea. Okay, fine. So don't go and don't write a check to the California Charitable Fund if they create one. Okay. So that's it sort of with the tax cuts. Now, let me tell you again what's happening down in Silicon Valley. Own the world. I meant that. They own the world. Because of the internet, they have 90% of everything that's out there. Now, the government doesn't like that because they don't like anybody to be a monopoly. You know that. And they come in and they begin to want to regulate you. And they've never been able to regulate these technology companies because every time they've tried, they've told the government to basically go to hell and leave us alone. We're dealing with people's privacy. You can't invade that. That's a freedom. It's called the Bill of Rights. Go back to Washington and sit down. So now what they've done is the government has come down their back since, remember with Apple when they asked for one of the emails, boy, they've really come down their back. So let me tell you what they're doing. They've decided now they're going to regulate themselves. So now you have Alphabet through Google, you have Facebook that last year hired 10,000 people each to just sit there and monitor ads and look at what's on their site because there's porno and a lot of things that shouldn't be there. Google only got through 25% of their site in December with the 10,000 people that they hired, so they're hiring an additional 10,000 people this month. You have Apple going to hire 20,000 people over 5 years. Are you beginning to understand what I'm telling you? So you can't be at Walmart, too bad for you. You can't be at McDonald's, but you can be at Apple, you can be at Alphabet, you can be at Amazon. They're going to start this company with Chase now, Berkshire Hathaway, and they're going to do drugs and all the healthcare. You can sit there and you can monitor that. And you can do that. Oh my God, Amazon's going to deliver things with robots in the sky. Oh, somebody has to monitor that. Oh my God, Walmart doesn't have cashiers, but somebody's sitting someplace in the back room watching all that stuff. Are they not? Oh, and by the end of the day, we know there's going to be artificial intelligence. Apple just came out yesterday with Homebound, which you know is going to be another one that talks to you. So now you got the Google talking to you in the morning. You got Alexa, right? And now you're going to have Homebound, so you'll be so confused you won't know what the hell you're doing. And then now you know that we're going to have driverless cars. And you know that basically Uber just went into partnership with Volkswagen and NVIDIA to get semi-driverless cars out on the road by 2025. Because when you move cars down a freeway, 1,000 go down, and in 1 hour, 2,000 cars. Driverless cars, 6,000 can go down in the same amount of time. So you know what they're doing. These technology companies are helping with hiring people who are displaced by automation. They're going to be building these basically live communities like they're doing in like an Apple town and a Google town. They're going to help with traffic. They're going to go out there and hire all these poor people that are going to lose their jobs, and that's going to keep this valley alive and well. And you know and I know that an economy where you live and real estate is like glue, and it goes together like super glue. So okay, now let's talk about the real estate industry. I went back and I looked over the last 30 years. We've appreciated about 7 or 8%. And basically that's the best in the nation with the highs and the lows and all of this and that. And of course we had the big dip, which was very unusual, but that was caused by lending, not by real estate. So you guys came back, and you know the East Bay came back slower, and I told you that 215 was going to be your year, and it started to be your year, and you had all the teaser rates and the multiple offers, and here's what you had: baby boomers. You still had Russian and Chinese money. You had a few millennials and a lot of investors that were flipping properties and basically buying up these foreclosures as they came on the market. And so you had all these multiple offers. You really had a great demand, not a lot of supply. So now we move into this year, and what's different? Well, the first thing that's different is the mix of buyers that you have. Russia, China money kind of gone away. It'll come back. You still have baby boomers, but not so many. And you basically are going to still have some investors, but it's hard to find properties to flip right now. So what you have coming at you are those lovely millennials now, because 10,000 of them are turning 30 every single day of every single year. And guess what? They're out there now, and they've gotten through with the suburbs, and the urban centers, and they've gotten through with living in apartments and condos, all of them 4 to 5 at a time. And they're all coming down now to single family, to the neighborhoods where they want the schools with the children, or even if they don't, they want to put down some roots and they want to get some social life into their life. So at the end of the day, you have to remember this. They have split personalities, you do understand. On one side, they were spoiled to death by their mothers, you know that. And so they were coddled, and they were told they were perfect, they were beautiful, they were intelligent, they were bright, they should inherit the world, they should have everything, and they should have everything by the time they're 25, and they will know everything by the time they're 25. So because of that, they're very socially conscious, they're into greening, they're into everything organic, they're going to save the world. The rest of us have all been basically, you know, stupid people. We've destroyed the planet. We didn't do anything for humanity, but they're doing everything and they're only 25. Good for them. Well, they only can do it because their parents sent them to college, most of them. They can afford it because they went down to Silicon Valley and struck gold, and they're all making huge incomes at 25 years of age because they started $150,000 a year. Excuse me, that's the reason why you did it, because your mother and father worked like dogs to send you to college. You went down to Silicon Valley and you found a company, they went public, and all of a sudden hit gold, and they can pay you, stupid person, because you don't even know what you don't know, a lot of money. Okay, fine, but that's why you're sweet and lovely. Okay, now they go down to Silicon Valley. Now there it's a little bit different. There's no mother there to muddle coddle you. You either get in, you do your job, you get promoted, or you're red flag, or you're out. And the person sitting next to you wants your job. Believe me, they eat their young down there. So what you have coming at you is this sweet personality that starts to look and wants everything, and they're crying when they don't get it. And what you have on the back end is somebody who's arrogant, they insult you, they call you a dog, they tell you you're stupid, you've lost 3 deals, they fire you because you don't know what the hell you're doing. That's exactly what's happening to you. They have no loyalty. You know they come through the internet, through the Redfins, through the basically the Trulias, and through the Zillow. So you know that. So that's what you've got, and that's now about 60% of your inventory, and that's only going to grow. So as we used to talk about first-time buyer, move up, and high-end, I don't think that applies anymore. I think you have to talk about trendy areas, mid-trendy areas, and not-so-trendy areas, because I think that's the way they shop. They want to live in trendy areas, and if they can afford it, they don't care. They move in packs. They want to live with their own. They crave social communication because they've always lived with machines, and they want to live in these really state-of-the-art neighborhoods, okay, where they can walk to the dog park, to the baby park, where they can have a mother's club, a father's club, a sports club, a movie club, block parties, the yoga studios, the bakery, their favorite butcher, this, that, and whatever, where they can go down on Sunday with the dog and the kids, and they have little water out in front of every restaurant for your dog, and you can sit there and you can have brunch. You know the model, and you know the cities over here that have done that. So you have the Livermores and the Newarks, and you have the Pleasantons, and you have the Danvilles, and you're going to have the Fremonts, and you're going to have now the Brentwoods, and you're going to have basically the Union City, and all of those are what I call trendy areas. So let me give you the statistics about the trendy areas. You have 1 month of inventory in those areas. That's it, guys. 1 month. So forget it. 6 months is average. It's not going to get any better. You basically are going to have at least 50% all cash in that area, okay? Because they're going to have millennials who can pay all cash. So if you have somebody that needs a loan, you better get that lender there with you saying, look, here's the check, because otherwise they're not going to be able to be there, all right? So maybe they can't live there. Then you're going to have basically about 3 to 17 days for sale. That's all it's going to take, and that's too much because you leave it on longer before you take it off. It's really probably 8 or 9 days. And then you're going to have basically a supply of basically 70% millennials that are going into that market. That's your trendy area, okay? And they crave those areas, and you're not going to see much difference. And guess what? They went up, and they do go up last year between 3 and 30%, maybe here a little less, so I would say here 3 to 17%, and that's what happened, and that's what's going to happen again this year. That's your appreciation for that market. Then you have mid-trendy. So I would say Alamo, maybe San Ramon, some of those areas. They're trendy, but they're bigger homes, they're more isolated, they don't have the neighborhood feel where you can just walk to a neighborhood. They're beautiful, they have good schools, and they're nice. So they will go there if they don't get into the trendy areas. But I will guarantee you that they would rather pay more in Livermore almost than they would pay in Alamo, just because of the neighborhood, because that's what they're doing. So it's not just by, oh, this is really elegant. They don't care. The bigger the house, the bigger the yard, the more isolated it is, the lack of a neighborhood they can walk to, the less desirable it is for these millennials. So let me give you some statistics for mid-trendy areas. Those you'll probably have 2 to 3 months of inventory, 24% all cash, not 50%. You'll probably still have 50% millennials looking in that market, and those will go up maybe 3 to 10% over list if they're listed correctly. Now let's talk about the non-trendy areas you have over here, and I'm going to give you two, Black Hawk and Ruby Hill. Anything there in the $2 million range may sell because it's $2 million, but they hate Black Hawk and they hate Ruby Hill. They're dated, they're big houses, they're isolated communities, they see that as old people living there, and they don't want to go there. So there you're going to have 4 or 5 months, and you see things at $4 or $5 million, $3 million and up. They're on the market 70 days, and they're getting reduced. So there, I don't think you're going to sell a lot to millennials, and I think in this year you're going to see them come down in price between 5 and 10%. We have the same thing over in the other side of the bay. I mean, you look at Burlingame Hot, you look at East Palo Alto, oh my God, Palo Alto, Cupertino, Mountain View, Menlo Park, Los Altos in the flats. You look at Los Gatos in the flats. You look at basically Foster City, Redwood Shores, Redwood City, San Carlos, all hot, 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 hot. Daly City, middle tier. Millbrae, middle tier. They're hilly. You have to come down to get to the retail. They hate Hillsborough. They absolutely hate Hillsborough, which was considered high-end. That's why. It's dark, big houses. They have no neighborhood or retail there at all. All they have is a good school. Everybody hates, every tech person hates Hillsborough. They don't even like Atherton anymore. Atherton, the $16, $18 million houses, are sitting there for basically at least maybe 60, 70 days getting reduced in price. So now you know what you've got and where you need to go. Where's going to be the B locations that are coming along? You know where they're going to be. Hayward, Richmond, Alameda, you got Vallejo coming along. Keep moving up the corridor, guys. Tracy, Stockton. I love Sacramento again now, but remember Sacramento goes up and down, so you got to get in at the right time, get out at the right time. I like Elks Grove. I love Roseville. All of those areas up there are going to be the next big ones because all the facilities and warehouses are going up there. All these commitment made by all these companies, they're not going to build a warehouse, Apple, in basically East Palo Alto. It's going to be up here with the 20,000 people that they're going to hire. So that's where it's going to be. So you know you have plenty of basically growth, you have plenty of opportunity here in your real estate market. Hard to get listings, I know. So walk the neighborhood, start doing that. When you knock on the door, you don't say, it's Carol Rodoni, are you ready to list your house? I would say, hi, my name's Carol Rodoni, you know I'm your neighbor, and for the last 10 years I've never walked my neighborhood and I thought it was about time. I live 4 blocks down, and you know what? I'd love to start a Mother's Club, or I'd love to have a block party on the 4th of July, and I wondered if you were interested in starting one with me. That's a good way to get one. People should start clubs. People crave clubs. A movie club, a bike club, a sports club, a hiking club, a dog club, a cat club, anything like that. You think I'm kidding. They are big on that, and they love that. Have it at your house. Have potluck. Be the first one. Get to know these people. Then you move around and do it at the next house. I'm telling you, these millennials crave these clubs. They crave block parties. They crave all these associations and things that they can belong to that are not basically charitable. They're not basically business connected. They're more social connected, okay? That's what they are. The other thing is you call people and they say they can't move because where are they going to go? Well, that's a good reason. Where are they going to go? And also remember, everybody's living longer, so they're staying in these houses longer. Maybe they will pass a bill in the state that says you can go from one county to the other, but we haven't seen that yet. But here's what you should do. You know what you can do. Tell them to move out. They can 1031 it, but that's expensive because they have to buy something of equal or greater value when they come back. One of the things you should do one day is bring in somebody who can talk about diversified trust, because that's a way to sell your property, put it in a trust, get the income while you're alive, and defer the payment of the capital gain. So that's a good way for people who don't know what to do to get out of a property and not have to pay the capital gain day one. So I think there are ways to work it. You gotta work it, guys. Listing is the key. If you get a listing, you're gonna get a sale. You know that, especially if you're in a trendy area. Now, I want to talk for a minute about these onlines that are coming at you, okay? And I don't care if anybody here looks for an online, I'm going to still tell you what I'm going to say. I'm too old to worry about that. So, they come and they say they work for Redfin, they work for Zillow, they work for Trulia. You know, I know very well the gentleman that is the president of Zillow, and he was on CNBC the other day talking about their third quarter. And he said they had the best third quarter they'd ever had, and 80% of all their revenue came from real estate agents who advertise on their site at $800 a month. Now I want to ask you a question. What are you doing advertising on Zillow at $800 a month if they're your competition? Now, what did they get in real estate sales? 20%.
All the time.
Now, you all belong to big companies, and I can't name all of them. But if you're Keller Williams, if you're Caldwell Banker, if you're Sotheby's, if you're any of those companies plus all the rest, you're doing whatever you are, you're 100% of those companies sell real estate. That's where you're going to get the business. You're not going to get it off of Zillow that only did 20% in sales, because they're going to send you a lot of people, and they're all looky-loos. You know that. And 20% of all the information they put on their site is incorrect. So after you correct the person that they sent you, they're going to fire you, because they're going to go back to Zillow and think Zillow was perfect, because Zillow gave them the right answer that they wanted. You gave them the correct answer that they didn't want. You know that, and I know that. So what are we doing? Doing that. I mean, I just can't. I want to slap you all. I just can't sleep. Okay. So here's what I say. They walk in, they say they came from Zillow. Perfect. It's wonderful. You went to Zillow, you have a good general knowledge of real estate, but I'm sure you know that 25% of all listings never get put on the MLS. People are sick. It's a rental. They don't want people to know they're selling their house. So you have 75% of everything. I would like to show you the other 25%, because if you're making such an important decision, you should see 100% of what's available. The second thing you need to say to them is, you know, in real estate, and I'm sure you understand that because you work in Silicon Valley, a Rolodex and networking is extremely important. Let's say you and I have a deal, and let's say that you list a property and you get 4 offers, and one's from Zillow, one's from Trulia, one's from Columbia, and one is from me, and I'm from a very nice company. I will guarantee you, because you know me, mine's going to go to the head of the line. And I will guarantee you that if you're smart, you're going to call me and you're going to say, Carol, you got to go back to your clients, rethink this a little bit. You got to come up higher. You're not giving me anything. You're not telling me anything I can't know. But what you're saying to me is, I'd like to work with you because I know the person at Zillow. I don't know who it is. They're probably an order processor. They're making 1%. They've never done a California contract. This is going to be a problem. Please come to the head of the line. That's number 1. So you're going to miss out by the other 3 companies. The second thing is, you need to work where you basically live and where you basically understand the territory. Real estate is all about understanding the land and what happens there, what's valuable, what's not, why this side of the street is better than that, going here, going there. How can you know that if you're in South Dakota or India working on order processing someplace? You don't know that. The third thing is, you set yourself up for liability as a seller, because they're not coming to do the disclosures. They're going to send them to you and you're going to fill them out. Half of us can't fill out a disclosure. How are they going to fill out a disclosure? And the contract. How many of us has taken us years to understand the California contract? They're not going to know it. They just want to fill in the blanks and get it over with. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Seller, you're going to be holding these wonderful open houses, right? Oh, great. You can't talk real estate unless you have a real estate license. Go look at the DRE rules. So you can talk about Mr. Trump and how you hate him. You can talk about Melania and whether she's wearing high heels or not. You can talk about all of that, but you cannot talk about real estate. So you set yourself up for liability, because I guarantee you you're going to open your mouth. They're going to say to you, is that mahogany on the wall? And you're going to say, oh yeah, it's mahogany. And then they're going to take it down and find out it wasn't mahogany. It was a mahogany makeup, I believe, right? And you're going to get sued. You know it, you know it, you know it. So at the end of the day, you're being penny wise and you're being pound foolish. The other thing is, look, you guys belong to a whole network yourself. You have all of your brother and sister offices. Some of your offices are huge. They're across the world. You have lenders you work with. You have people who are architects, who are designers. You know the people in the permit offices. You know construction people. You work with a team, so you can help people to come in here and say, I want to tear down my house, because you know they don't like Corian and marble and hardwood floors. And you put down updated kitchen, and you know they don't think that's updated. I was in a house the other day with these two millennials who said to me, oh, we're knocking this all out. I said, well, what are you putting there? You're knocking marble out as countertop. Yeah, we're going to put polished concrete. Can you believe that? They want polished concrete, subway tile together. Terrific. And they were going to have a washboard sink like the grandmother used to use when she washed the clothes. That's the look. We all fight to get better so they can go backwards. So that's what you know they like. And they like stone. And in the showers, they told me they don't want water. I said, you don't want water? What would you want in a shower? Oh no, it has to come down like rain. And there has to be an odor and a flavor, a fragrance, excuse me, not odor, a fragrance connected with it. And they don't like any plumbing that shows. Everything has to float, you know that, with copper sinks. So even though you think it's updated, it's not. Wouldn't it be nice if you knew somebody that could help them? Because every construction person I know is up in Napa and Sonoma, and they're not going to be able to get anybody that's going to come down. Oh, and by the way, we have a lot of problems in closing these. Now let me give you an example that these people don't understand, because all of them are going to start to use Bitcoin. Okay, let me talk for a minute about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was started 10 years ago by a Japanese gentleman, except there's no Japanese gentleman they can find, because it was the mafia in Japan that started, because they wanted to move Bitcoins like money, but they didn't want to be regulated, they didn't want anybody to check, and they wanted to move drugs and arms. Okay. At the same time, we started a company called Bitcoin here in San Francisco that the government shut down because it wasn't regulated for money, and it cost people $1 billion. Now it got out of favor, but it's sort of been getting into favor again the last couple of years. If you want to trade it as a commodity, think of it as a day stock. Think of it as a second stock. Seconds. Time. Because there are 1,000 Bitcoin companies. So what are you buying? Bitcoin, Ether, Ethereum, IOC, CIO, Ripple. What are you buying? 700 funds. They all differ in value. Some of them are $147 a Bitcoin. The one you talk about all the time, Bitcoin, was at $20,000 2 weeks ago. This morning it was at $10,000, which means it's lost 50% of its value, and I'll tell you why. They used to keep about 20 million Bitcoins in existence. So people would want it, and it was a great deal of demand, like we have here, and no supply. What happens? Prices go up. Well, South Korea and Japan got in the business of mining Bitcoins, like we do gold coins. And so the number has gone from 20 million to 100 million. So what do you think happens when you have more supply? It goes down. That was number one. The second thing is they put a futures on Bitcoins on the New York Stock Exchange, which makes it very valuable, because you can't just buy and sell. You can do puts and calls and options and all kinds of things. So if you bought Bitcoin at $20,000, you're not very happy because it's now $10,000 basically for a Bitcoin. But here's what I know is going to happen. It's probably going to be still on the New York Stock Exchange, but remember what I just told you. If you want to get in that business, get a computer, attach it to yourself, and keep looking at it every second, because you got to get in at the right time, you got to get out at the right time. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. It is going to become a digital currency, or something like it will become a digital currency. Now, you're going to begin to see, basically millennials who are going to come to you and say, we want to buy this house in Bitcoins. Now, here's the issue, guys, right now. The government needs to regulate, okay, and that's going to take 5 or 6 years, because they need to do it like cash, because here's the problem. You get a house, I want to buy it in Bitcoins with my client, and it's 800,000. So we say to you, we have a letter here from the Bitcoin company, we have $800,000 in Bitcoins today. Now, if it was $800,000 in dollars, you wouldn't be worried about your $15-day escrow, right, or your 20-day escrow, because you know the $800,000 is probably going to be worth $800,000. What is that Bitcoin going to be worth 18 days from now? You have no idea. So now you have to go out and get a bond. Because if you can't get a bond, which is very expensive, the title company won't clear title because they're not going to be responsible for that going south of Sunday. So it's timely, it's expensive. Just the transaction alone costs $30, but the bond's going to cost you several thousand. You do Master or Visa, you can buy a home on Master or Visa if you have enough, basically, that you can do that. I guess with the platinum, some of these black cards people have. But you know what? Those cost 3 cents. So now at the end of the day, you go to the title company and you say, okay, we got this great sale, this guy's going to buy the Bitcoins. They're going to start with their attorneys, believe me. Because everybody wants everything looked at 15 times. You got to get the bond. Now, you wait till the day that it closes, okay, fine. Now, your seller said, I don't want Bitcoins. I want you now to take that and transfer it back into cash. So now you got to go find an agency, basically, that will take the Bitcoin and put it back into cash, because he says, look, it may be worth 800 still today, but tomorrow it could be worth 750. I would rather have cold, hard, ugly cash. Give me that. So you're going to start to see it in real estate, in title, in insurance. But remember this, it's going to be difficult as a transaction, so make sure you give yourself a lot of time. It can be done, but they need a bond. And eventually you're going to find out that it's going to get much easier, and I'll tell you why. Because once the government regulates it, they will stay behind it. And you know these millennials like things on that iPhone. And so you know they're going to want it to be digital, okay? So that's the way it is. So you have a lot of things coming at you. The other thing I think we have coming at you is, you know, we have a $24 trillion debt that's going to 30. And everybody says to me, oh, but Carol, how can we afford it? Well, we pay $500 billion a year on interest just on the debt. But I'll tell you how they can afford it. When you have things like student loans and you have things like loans for houses that are very expensive and people say, oh my God, I can't afford it, you know what they're going to do. They just extend the timeline. You're going to see 50, 60, 70-year loans. They're going to take all these student loans and say to these kids, okay, you still have to pay them, or we'll maybe deduct a little bit, but we're going to push them out. So instead of 5 years, you can pay them over 30 years. That's what countries and that's what people do. You're going to see basically houses that go up. You know that because we have no land. You're going to see smaller houses, mini houses. You're going to see these baby boomers are going to sell their houses, take their $1 million in cash, and buy structured houses and go to very elegant mobile home parks. You're going to see shared houses come, because that's what they do in Europe, where people buy a house and they divide it in half. So those are all the things that are coming at you from online, from basically real estate changing, from millennials that are coming at you, to Bitcoin that's coming at you. So all I can say is it's moving faster than any of us can be and probably adjust to. But what I'm telling you is it's still going to be a great business, because you have the best real estate market in the world, and it's all in land. Now look, the last thing I want to talk about is rentals. Rentals go down maybe a little bit this year because they built so many, but they're up 30%, so shut up. I told you, warehouses, storage facilities, mobile home parks, parking lot, land. Hollister up 200%, Pescadero, Boulder Creek. Why? Because of marijuana. Now remember this if you want to get into that with people. State law is great, but federal law always supersedes state law. And the federal government does not like marijuana. So you can't go to a federal bank and get a loan. They can't file a federal income tax return. And people that are buying that have to be private investors who know they're not getting a loan. They're going to get caught because the government's going to come after them when they don't file the federal income tax return. So be very careful that the deal can go through, and then it's going to go through. They're not going to sue you eventually because they're going to say you should have known that you really shouldn't have done this deal. So be careful with that. So, okay, that's where I think everything is going. I think we're in a really idyllic place. Now, I'm going to close, I like to close with a cute story. So I'm back to my Girl Scout cookies again now. Oh my God, it's my life. So when my Jessica calls me up and she says, Nana, will you buy Girl Scout cookies? I said, yes. She said to me, well, how many are you going to buy? I said, what did I buy last year from you? She said, 60. She said, would you increase it a little bit? I said, okay, 65. Give me 5 boxes. The rest we send to the troops. You know that, so may God be with them. They'll be happy. So then the little one calls me, okay? The little one that's Jameson, that's the redhead that everybody says is just like me, okay? And she has a lot of energy. She is very vivacious. She never shuts up at the table. You have to tell her, Jameson, other people would like to talk besides you, okay? Today. So she calls me up and she says, Nana, are you going to buy cookies for me? I said, well, tell me about them. So she goes through her script. She has a script. And she tells me about all the cookies. And she said to me, what will you buy? I said, well, I guess I have to buy as many as I bought for Jessica in order to be fair, so I'll buy 65. You know what she said to me? That was the right decision. She's 6 years old. Soon she'll be running Apple one day, or Berkshire Hathaway, or one of your companies out there. I don't know what to do with her. She's only 6 years old. Her mother is already confused with her. Her father is overwhelmed with her. And I'm the only one that she doesn't get around, because I basically tell her, stop it already, because I think just like you and I know you're right. All right, I'll answer any questions. Any questions for me? Somebody has questions, I'm sure.
Anyone?
Come on, somebody's got a question.
Oh, you know I got one.
Oh yeah, there you go.
When do you think the stock market is going to adjust? I'm hearing 30,000 is the number that the...
No, I said 28, and I tell you what I think is going to happen. The next time you're going to see a bleep in the economy, and I don't just think of the stock market, you have to think of all elements of it, the real estate, the stock market, could be in 2020. I think till then you're safe, and I'll tell you why. That's going to be an election year. That will be the year of a new president. Now look, I don't know whether you like Trump or not, but if you re-elect him, and I think he wants to run, you're going to know what you're going to get. You're going to get what you have now, a great economy. He's